Two very Australian rounds remain in this championship. Mercifully, they'll start the drivers off with the less dangerous of the pair. But Phillip Island is known for its technical layout and high speed corners. In a car that already tests even the best out there, it won't be a walk in the park. Let's see who has that Aussie grit as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Bathurst has gained a lot more notoriety on the global stage, but Phillip Island has its own storied history in Australian motorsports. Let's take a closer look with our track guide. Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening Ewan. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around.
These cars drive a little bit different than the modern cars, and it's going to be a little bit of a game of chicken going into Duhan Corner. This is a really fast right-hander, especially known as Turn 1, and when you get all these cars side by side, it really is just who can hang on the outside and who can hold the car down on the inside. There's other fast corners and sweeping stuff, such as Swan leading out onto the front straight, that in more modern cars, it's easy flat out, but these old Lotus 49s with the old tires and old suspension, it really is a handful out there. And then be careful of the really slow corners, such as Miller and MG down there. You're going to see a lot of late dive bombs, but these cars aren't always the most stable on the brakes, and it's easy to overstep your limit out here.
Yeah, I expect we'll see a few offs throughout the day, but let's take a look at the championship because that still remains within sight for Sebastian Tixier, who is looking for his first championship, while Trangarade is looking to notch up his second, becoming only, I believe, the fifth different driver in the Grand Prix Legends broadcast races to have taken multiple championships. John Olsen is still mathematically in it. In fact, you can go all the way down to Mira Hraski in seventh to be technically in it, but it's very unlikely beyond Sebastian Tixier unless we see some pretty extenuating circumstances with only 60 points for a win. Quite the battle there for essentially seventh on down. Hraski ahead of Neil Kemp by just a few points. Let's head to the F2 standings. What's that one look like, Joey?
Yeah, this is the F2 standings. These are for drivers that are 2,500 iRating and below, and don't let that iRating fool you. There's quite a few regulars here in this series that are kind of Lotus specialists, and leading the championship in the F2 is David Rossi out there. He's got a pretty commanding lead, but if you notice there, it's really a battle for that second place between Rowley Wallbank, Yuri Wickstrom, Emmanuel Pieri, and even Tobias Harnvey over there. Sixth place, Andrew Eng, and then really rounding it out, it still stays pretty close through these final four. Glenn Becker, Michael Grissinger, Cam Porter, and Robert Reynolds all still vying for positions there in those last couple weeks.
As for the Nations Cup, Finland narrowly ahead of the United States currently, with Norway bringing up third place behind them. Bit of a mix-up, honestly, considering, but it's been a mixed-up season. That's why we see all the craziness compared to usually what is basically lockstep for in the same line as the Drivers' Championship for the F1. But from there on down, from Singapore down to United Kingdom, it is extremely tight for that fourth position. And then from seventh and eighth, Australia and Denmark still trying to decide that one. We'll keep an eye on that. Germany's still, as they have been all season, kind of just bringing up the rear in 10th. What about today's race details?
Round 11 of 12, this championship is winding down. We're going to be doing 23 laps on this virtual Phillip Island circuit. Setups will be open, so all of these competitors have been tuning the cars exactly how they want them to be felt out here, and no spare car, so keep away from others, don't make contact out there, and that's going to be your best chance for survival. Drive-through penalty at 17x and disqualification at 25. Hopefully we don't see any cars reach that limit.
Indeed, and we're just getting the first of our lap times in, so we'll see how that plays out. But the temperatures are one thing that I want to take a look at, because in a car that already slides around a lot, we've got 100+ degrees Fahrenheit, over 40 Celsius for those on the metric system, and a fair bit of wind, which is typical since this track is literally right next to the ocean. You tend to see a lot of it. So driver is going to be struggling for grip as Mick Claridge really shows it there, Joey, coming off of Swan. Let's see what his first lap puts down. Only 6th place for the multi-time champion.
You know, this is my first time seeing Mick out on the racetrack. He's usually sitting next to me here in the booth, Joe. And I gotta say, I like having you here, and I like seeing Mick out on the screen and participating, not because I don't like Mick at all, but this is fun to watch him.
Yeah, getting to see how he backs up all those numbers behind his name now that he's out to prove himself again. Sad that we don't have him here today, but just a couple technical problems has put him back on the track, at least for the time being. And he's going to try and get higher than that, 7th place now, I should say. And Sebastian Tixier, I think he wants this championship, even though he's said that he doesn't really pay all that close attention to it and has said multiple times. He's beating Ove Trangrade on this first lap, but it is narrow. There is 1/10 of a second from first to third, and Seb is coming around to complete that second time. Let's see if he can improve upon the 30.4. Yes, a 30.1 puts him a little farther away, but Trangrade is coming up quickly here from what is now third. Let's see if he's got anything, Joey, and he does, but it's not going to be pole.
No, won't be pole, but my goodness, look at those top three, and then really after the top three that are separated by a quarter of a second, there's another, I'm seeing, wow, look at that, about 5 cars, 6 cars, all within about 0.3 of a second battling out as well.
Oh yeah, there is a huge clump of them down there just at the latter end of the top 10. Mick Claridge improved up to 4th. Here's Ryan Freeman down in 18th. Some of the drivers at the back trying to see if they can go a little higher, and Ryan does. He's up to 17th. We're just missing Mats Linden and Roberto Pungrazzi, but Pungrazzi's not out on course, and it looks like Mats is in pit lane, so those two will not be setting a time regardless at this point, because we're running out of time to try and put a lap down from here. And I think that is everybody, as our grid looks to be set. So Sebastian Tixier has put it on pole. There's no bonus points for that, but will that track position be important out there today? Neil Kemp will start from 2nd as he put in a stonker and has kind of snuck in. Ove Trangrade only going to be starting 3rd, but he loves to battle, so I'm sure he'll get some enjoyment if he wants to try to take that lead away. Mick Claridge on the outside of that 2nd row. Can he come in and steal the win as well? Jorge Nieva will start from P5 as Xavier Sanchez will be in 6th. Miko Mikkola will be P7. After that, John Olsen starts 8th, and the 5th row has been Zoka on the inside and Laust Olsen rounding out the top 10.
Here in 11th place, we got Mira Horoski there. Then next to him in that row 6 is Glenn Becker in the 12th place, following up David Rossi and Gary Quinlan there, row 7. Andres Bruno, Rowley Wildbank in row 8. Ryan Freeman, Robert Prumley, Cam Porter, and Paul Wilson round out the top 20.
Terry Tromazauser will start in 21st, Isan Gin in 22nd. Then you've got Manuel Pereira and Alan Graham on the next row. Andrew Eng starts 25th with Tiro Tilis in 26th position. Bjorn Ackerman is 27th, followed by the last of the drivers to set a time, Robert Anderson. And then, as I mentioned, Mats Lindgren and Pangrazi will start at the back of the field. Interesting to note, because we've already set a record for most different winners over the course of the season at 8 now. We could reach 9 because 3 of our top 5 starters have not won a race yet this season. Mick Claridge, Neil Kemp, and Jorge Nieva. So could get quite interesting out here today, especially if these drivers are as hungry as I think they are to try and steal a victory. But very curious to see with this standing start. They're going to build up some speed coming down to Dewan here, Joey. So if anybody's 2 wide, let alone maybe even 3 wide, I'm hoping we all get through down into the Southern Loop.
We talked about it before everybody was out there qualifying side by side, and Duhan is really a game of chicken. And now you stack all these cars up side by side for a standing start, and you're right, it might be more than 2 wide going in there. And yeah, better tighten up those belts and hang on out there.
They're all making their way out to the grid, just about a dozen more, and then we will be on our way here for the penultimate round of the season. Been one of the wildest seasons we've seen in a while, with so many different winners, keeping it quite mixed up. Will we see yet another one added to the list? And will they be amongst those top 5 I mentioned, or will we see guys like Xavier Sanchez maybe sneak in there? Behind him, there's a lot of other drivers that have won. Mekala, Olsen, Zoko have all taken one so far this season. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find a new winner in there. It'd have to be from farther down in the field, but don't count anything out here today, as we're still waiting on, looks like Xavier Sanchez. Now he pops out there as Laust Olsen and Pangrazi are going to be the last ones. Looks like we should be ready to go as the engines now start to rev and the lights come up here for round 11 of the Grand Prix Legends Series, and the green flag is out. Tixier gets a pretty good start off the line. Kemp is going to keep him honest. Oh, slipping back there. Ove Trangrade seems to struggle in the second phase. Can't get the car going. He's going to fall down to 5th. Is in the back. Did we have some problems? Somebody's off course. I think that's Cam Porter for some reason into the grass, but they're into the Southern Loop now. It looks like everybody else managed to make it through Dewan, but that was strange. I didn't even see what happened to Cam, Joey.
Yeah, it looked like Cam Porter and Ryan Freeman got collected on the start there, and I know that we're watching these cars really battle it out single file for the most part on screen. I wanted to note that the driver's right side on that standing start did not get a very good launch, and it really was the whole driver's right row. I think that really added in that stack up, Joe.
Yeah, the natural racing line tends to be to the left-hand side of the track by that point, so I wonder if that maybe played a part in it, as they now come through Hayshed up to Lukey Heights, one of the trickiest corners in racing, if you ask me. Up and off camber, blind at the exit as they try and keep the car tucked in down into MG. Looks like Tixier still ahead of Kemp. Claridge has moved up into 3rd because of the problems we had for Trangrade. Sanchez up to 4th. Trangrade down to P5. And it looks like as they come to complete lap 1, we have only had Andre Bruno and Ryan Freeman with some serious problems somewhere in the back. But we're watching Tixier down the front stretch, and it looks like he is in control for the time being.
I love all of these onboard cams that the competitors give us here, and riding on board looks like he's using a virtual reality headset. Also got the pedal cam and the hands cam of the steering wheel. Pretty impressive setup.
Speaking of impressive, one thing that I would like to note that I can see here and recognize, that's the actual Lotus 49 wheel that you can get. There's a sim version that is sold online. There you can see the comparison, that bright red rim with the Lotus logo in the middle. And so cool to see him go to that lengths with him being a regular in this series. Oh, we had a spin with Ove Trangrade. That's our championship leader. He is around in Miller, and he's trying to get the car going. He is falling well down the order. There's still points to be earned here, but this is exactly what he doesn't need to give Sebastian an opening coming into the final round if he does not gain these positions back. Let's take a look, Joey, to see what happened.
I saw that he was really following this train. He goes to the outside here on entry, and I think either he got in a little bit too deep or he's off in the dirty part of the track. Look, he just gets loose and around the car goes. He spins it off to the inside, no contact made, and he is back out on the racetrack.
He's very lucky, that everybody was heads up enough that he was able to get out of the way in time. But let's see, where did he wind up? He's 16th currently. I got to dig up my numbers charts to try and figure out how many points that even is at this stage. But I know how many Tixier is going to get if he finishes where he sits, which is 60 up at the lead. We take a look at Laust Olsen. In the meantime, a little bit farther down in sixth position, he's giving chase on John Olsen, no relation. As two different parts of the world and spelled two different ways. They've also got the likes of Ben Zocco kind of hounding them from behind.
This is a great little battle for what is fifth place on the racetrack, right on board with six. Look directly behind him. That's the number 5 car, Benjamin Zocco, right there. And then right behind Benjamin is Miro Haraski. And this is a great battle on the racetrack. All 4 cars separated by less than a second.
So here's the interesting thing. Now that I had a chance to go take a glance at where the points paying positions go, I believe it's 35 for 16th place, which actually will make that 36 points because he's up to 15th now for Trangrade. However, he has 39 points in his drop week. So until he gets above 39 points in the scoring positions, he's still going to get 39 regardless. So as we watch Laust Olsen, man, and that shows you how dancy these cars are coming over Lukey Heights as he was getting dangerously close up to John Olsen there.
He is all up on the back of the gearbox. And speaking of on the back of the gearbox, check out third place right now, Mick Claridge. I've noticed he's been very aggressive all these first 3, now 4 laps of the race, and he's trying to get around for second place right now.
It's putting pressure on Neil Kemp. I can guarantee with him not having any involvement in the points championship, he is just here to win. And Xavier Sanchez behind him is also involved in this. Maybe try to pick up the pieces as they get quite close to one another coming out of the southern loop, now heading towards Stoner and Miller. Great exit there from Neil Kemp, who has stretched away and should be safe from attack, or maybe not. Wow, Mick really sending it in, and he slides a little bit wide. So does Xavier Sanchez. They hold on to it, but my goodness. Oh, and Laust Olsen is off in the background. That's the bright yellow and blue car of Olsen in the number 6 as he's going to find his way back on. Miller Corner has been Calamity Corner this time.
Yeah, and actually, Laust did get out. He had a little bit of contact on the front right, but it looks like the car is doing good. This is almost a spitting image of the replay that we saw earlier with Trangrade, except it looks like he clips the number 4 car there on the braking point, and that's what causes him to go off track.
Wow, he's very lucky he came down as quickly as he did. If that thing popped into the air and landed into the grass, I think he'd be sailing for quite a long time with how fast they're going at that part of the track. But that loses him positions down to 13th, actually with Ove Trangrade, interestingly enough. And here they are on screen now to try and settle out that P13 as they come around Swan Corner. And it's a little bit of a run wide from Laust. Is this going to give Ove a chance to get his foot in?
I tell you what, this is exactly what Ove Trangrade did not want to see. He already had a nightmare start. He's going to try to take a look going too wide, thinks better of it. We talked about how slippery these cars are, but look at Laust is going to swing wide. This is going to open the door, and Ove Trangrade takes that position. He will now be able to continue his charge up through the field from his early mistake.
Man, doing a fantastic job of trying to make the best of this because he knows he needs to just try to keep Sebastian far enough back that he'll have an easy time at the season finale as we watch Sanchez and Claridge still going at it. Claridge looks a little squirrely. I don't know if he's maybe a bit rusty or what, but boy, the rear of the car is really everywhere. And in fact, he goes completely off course on the way up into Lukey Heights.
I made the comment earlier that he was one of the most aggressive in the first few laps. I'm wondering now that we're on lap 5, maybe the tires have overheated a little bit, or maybe he overstepped a little bit too far, but he used to be applying pressure for second, and now Xavier Sanchez is applying pressure for him on third place.
Yeah, there's those temperatures still going upwards out here. So it's, I guess, let's see, is this? Yes, this is during the Australian summer right now, as this is set in the present day of the 26th of November here. So hence we're seeing these pretty warm temperatures on the track. Although that said, I'm sure the many Australians would love a 65-degree Fahrenheit to air temperature in the summer down in Australia. But that is a bit beside the point, as the car is really worried about what the rubber is doing in contact with the pavement. We watch them come through Stoner once again, and a lot of pressure still being applied by Sanchez.
A lot of pressure indeed, and little misstep there from the number 3 car of Mick Claridge. That's going to allow Sanchez to come up, battle side by side right now, but that yellow number 3 is hanging tough on the inside line right now. We'll see if we get an over-under from Sanchez. These cars can be really tough to dance them too wide through these tricky technical sections.
Yeah, this is such a fast portion here coming up through Hayshed and into Lukey Heights. So Claridge on the back foot, now having to play defense to keep Sanchez away from him. Looks like he's successfully done so for now, as long as he keeps it tucked in. Man, he is struggling under braking. Misses the apex at MG as well.
I tell you what, when you get in too deep on the brakes like that, it really makes the car tough to put the power down. And right now, that Wonder Bread car is looking to slingshot around Mick.
I didn't even notice it had Wonder Bread there on there. I wonder if that is a Ballad of Ricky Bobby reference coming up around the outside. And I said it was a game of chicken. Mick Claridge is going to lose that game this time. Sanchez is up into third.
That gets him up into that final podium position here. We're going to jump back on screen. This is Miro Horoski. Great battle side by side going through turn 2 here. This is 3 cars all battling it out for 6th place position.
Yep, Mikola and Nieva chasing on Miro. And so far it looks like Krasky is going to be able to hold on. And coming into the braking, the look to the inside from Mikola. Oh, almost contact in the back. And maybe there was a little bit of contact. 3 wide on the exit. And the one that takes advantage of it all is Jorge Nieva, who I think made that initial touch there on the gearbox of Miro Horoski.
These competitors are having to be so careful both on the brakes and on the gas. You see, it's easy to lock up a tire or get too much yaw angle in the car, and then especially when you put the throttle down, really easy to get too loose or get wheel spin. Joe, I'm loving the amount of over-under racing that kind of car produces.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, we've had some discussions in the past that I'd actually love to see a racing series with cars with this much power and this little downforce, and send some top drivers out, except a lot safer than these things, and see what happens. As here comes Mick Claridge back at Sanchez. This time he's going to take it, and Sanchez relinquishes before they get to doing. And by the way, if you're hearing that name, Mick Claridge, and are new to this series and thinking it sounds familiar, yes, that is that Mick Claridge from our Where Is Mick series. New episode was just put out yesterday. If you want to go check that out and see what he is up to in his ride around the world. Obviously, in current time, he's not riding around the world as he's on a brief break, but we've been following his progress in that video series on his bike trip literally around the globe.
Looks like with that carrot to chase out in front, Mick has found his pace again out on the racetrack. Looks to be one of the fastest cars going through some of these sectors, at least currently out there. And he's got the bit between his teeth, and maybe we'll see him pick up the pace and hunt down second place right now, as it really has just been Sebastian Tixier out front leading Neil Kemp.
Tixier's managed to take 2 wins already this season. And I'd love to be the first this season to take a third and deny another new winner, but he's got a little ways to go as we're still only on lap 8. In the meantime, it's been much more a fight for this third position. Neil Kemp, I think, has appreciated Zabier distracting Mick because, man, he's run away. He's now 3 seconds up the road. There you can see him flashing by.
You see him flashing by indeed, and looking at the lap times, first place 130.5, Neil Kemp 131.1, so quite a big drop off in terms of pace between first and second place. And then, oh no, looks like Mick is off in turn 1.
Wow, way off, finds his way back onto the course and doesn't lose too much time, but he was way out of the alfalfa there. He's lucky he was able to return to the track without incident.
I was in the middle of looking at lap times and I just saw that yellow car fly off the racetrack, but great catch to keep it pointed straight. We'll see what happens here on the replay. This was going down into turn 1, really fast right-hander, and I think the car is just going to get a little bit loose. Looks like he's just out on the dirty stuff out there.
So just a little wide, unfortunately. By the way, David Rossi also had an off recently, allowing Rolly Wallbank up to 12th. Now, Rolly's going to need a lot more points to try and keep the championship hopes alive to catch David Rossi for the F2 championship. And there, yeah, you can see. And look at how much anti-camber is off the track there. I'm kind of amazed he was able to bring it back as quickly as he did. I would have thought he'd go sliding a lot farther.
I think it's because of those treaded off-road tires that the Lotus has out here. It's good in the grass.
Exactly. A little bit before the days of slicks, but then they also, these were all weather tires, sort of the Formula E method. They don't need to change them at all. It's just they keep them on for everything, but unfortunately they don't give the greatest of grip in all situations because of that. So falling backwards, Claridge has now got to gather back up on Sanchez if he wants to get onto the podium today. Let's take a little bit farther back here with this battle between Ben Zocco and John Olsen. This is for 5th, and Ben Zocco, racing on home soil this time, would probably like a little bit better than P6.
He's hunting that top 5 position, and give a shout out to John Olsen there in that number 4 car on screen. He's kind of just been a rock out there. He's had a couple faster cars come up and approach him, but he keeps hitting his marks, and he's really tough to get by and doing exactly what he needs to hang on to that 5th place position, consistency.
And I don't think he wants Zocco to get by because Ben kind of has a reputation of being very difficult to pass and is part of what got him a win recently. Actually, I think one of his first wins in this series. It's been a while since he had one. And it had been a couple years as he's going to take a little look down into MG. Shockingly hard to make passes into that hairpin because of the Lukey Heights corner, but he's not able to make it stick this time. But clearly, Ben is a little bit fired up and ready to take action.
Watching more and more of these racers make the moves on the racetrack, it seems like it's the late dives into these 2 very sharp hairpins. You get the occasional run down into turn 1, but it really is who wants to be the most brave on the brakes and think they can get this car stopped in time.
Well, up through Dewan and into the brakes of the Southern Loop. Not going to be close enough for Ben this time. We ride on board with John Olsen looking back at the Australian. And a nice exit from both of them means nobody really gathers up any advantage here heading through Stoner and down into Miller. Out of our drivers who have gained positions, we're not seeing a whole lot up at the front of the field, although everybody who has amongst the top 10 has all gained 3 positions except for Haraski, who's gained 2. So that's a bit of a weird stat going on. But other than that, Emmanuel Pereira has made his way up 8, and so has Matt Linden.
Taking a look at one of the front runners that had a little bit of trouble early on, Joe. I'm seeing Ove Trengrade right now on our screen in that number 7 car. He's the last car in line, but he's consistently made his way back up towards the front, picking off 1 car at a time, and looks like the next on the list is Mira Haraski. As it looks like, actually, we got 2 cars off. That's Ben Zocco and John Olsen that we were covering earlier.
Exactly. Well, and I hear some laughter over the radio, so I don't think they're too mad about it. And let's see. Oh, lost it under braking. That's
I saw
bizarre.
net code to the max here on initial contact. Sorry to interrupt you there, Joe.
No, it's okay. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That angle really showed it there. You could see the car just making that sudden veer, and that sent them into each other. Maybe that's why we're hearing that little bit of chuckle. They kind of know that they weren't touching, and it all went south. Well, then, Mikko Mekala, who was behind them, is promoted up to 5th now, and the two of them have been shuffled down to, it looks like, 9th and 12th, unfortunately. And sad to see that one wind up that way, but sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. So we come back live now and still haven't seen much change in the top 4, with it still being Tixier, Kemp, Sanchez, and Claridge. By the way, you were talking about Trangerade's progress forward. That puts him up to 7th now as well, and it's becoming better and better damage limitation to keep Sebastian Tixier from gaining too many points. I'd have to double-check and see where it would put him, but I don't think it would put Tixier ahead of Trangerade.
Looking at the big picture of the race, Joe, we're only working lap 12 right now, so plenty of laps left to go. The car's in front of Ove Trangrade. It looks like he could potentially get 2 more positions out on the racetrack, potentially even 3. He might even wind up with the top 5 today, which could be great in terms of points damage control.
Absolutely. And, well, it looks like it'd be a 16-point gain for Tixier if they finish where they stand right now. But based on the progress that Ove's been making, as Mekala, whoa, Claridge is under attack from Mikko now. Did he have another problem, or has Mikko just been running him down?
I think it's a combination of the both. Last lap time out of Mick was a 138.1, so that is 7 seconds off of the pace. He clearly had an incident somewhere, and that has put him right in the eyeballs and the crosshair here of Mikola.
Oh, we might want a replay of it if we can find time amidst this battle. It starts with Sanchez, who gets loose through Lukey Heights, and I think that unsighted Mick, and he spun it coming through MG, and that's what lost him more time. But Sanchez had a magnificent save in this. If we could get eyes on it at some point. It looks like we found it. So let's take a look here. Now this is going to be backed up just a little bit. Yeah, there is the spin from Mick. So that's the second thing. And then Sanchez, just before this, if we can see the save here. Yeah, this is just after the save for Sanchez. And there's the touch of grass, it looks like, as Mick sends it just to the inside. Watch to the outside. Look at that!
Yeah. And Joe, let me tell you from personal experience, Mick is also dancing on the edge out there. So instead of just trying to control his car, he's like, oh my gosh, where is this car going to end up? In front of me? And I think that was just it. Got a little bit of sight reference lost, and look at how easy it is to get turned around.
Really unfortunate, because that was a pretty good battle between the pair of them up till now. But Mick's still giving us excitement as he's trying to keep Mikko behind. Jorge Nieva has also got, well, Ove Trangerade right on him. My goodness. So Ove might actually get to 4th here, depending on how much battling happens in front of him.
That's what I was noticing, and I know it has not been a pretty race for Ove Trangrade in that number 7 machine, but you gotta think damage control, and look at these cars are all for position right in front of them, and it's always fun to have a smile on the end of your face at a race, and even when you're working from the back up towards the front, some of those are the most fun races you have.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because honestly, I'm pretty sure that Ove will be smiling after this one, because we've seen races where he's had a comfortable lead and he's slowed down just so that he could have a battle with somebody, because he really, that's all he cares about is just having a good race with someone, and side by side, back and forth. And right now he's got a veritable buffet of what he loves in front of him. Nieva up first as he's getting closer and closer. Oh, but that was a bit of a poor exit out of the penultimate turn. He's going to have to hope for a better one here out of Swan.
Might be a poor exit, but I'll tell you what, he looks pretty gosh dang cool with all this counter steer in the car. He gets a great draft coming down the front straightaway, going to take a look down into turn 1. This is that game of chicken, and it looks like he's going to try to hold it down the inside. We'll see if the 13 does an over-under, but it looks like Trangrade is going to get that position over the 13.
back to 6th now. Remember, he started this race in 3rd, so he'll get close back to where he began at this rate, depending on what happens with Claridge and Mikkola. As they come down through Stoner once again, it does look like Mick has kind of regathered himself and is starting to pull away there. So this might be a case of Ove having to take them on one by one rather than getting them to clump up in a fight. And in fact, you could see some big wheel spin from Mikko the Finn, apparently struggling with tire grip out of the corners.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The number 9 machine is really struggling, putting power down with the wheel spin, and that allows Trengrade each corner exit to just slowly start to reel him in a little bit more. And let me tell you what, before you notice it, you see him in the mirrors, and look at him climbing up all over the curbs in some of these sections, just trying to get the most grip out of the car.
I gotta imagine in a fast corner, this thing probably does not like a curb off to the side, especially in some places they can stick up significantly here at Phillip Island as they come off of Swan Corner. Trengrade's not close enough to attack yet, but he's cutting down. Let's see what this last lap looks like as Ove is going to run a 1:30.8. Mikko 31.1, 3/10 faster for the Norwegian.
Something else to note, Mick Claridge, 131.2. So not only is Ove reeling in Mikko, but Mick Claridge, he's reeling in both of these cars, and that's exactly what Trengrade wants.
And Mick has been fighting with Ove for many years now. Of course, Mikko's pretty much a regular as well. So he knows what to expect with Ove. But once again, Mick just overshooting so many corners, and he's struggling now getting the power down himself. I wonder if something's wrong with his pedals or something, because it's strange to see him make so many mistakes today.
I love watching these cars as they get later and later in the tire run. Look at Mick Claridge dance that car all over the racetrack. Oh no, and then Mikko goes wide there too off in the grass. Doesn't look to hurt his momentum too much. He's going to stay on the racing line, but getting back to my point, it's a little bit like watching a Jack Russell Terrier on a freshly waxed wood floor out there. They're just slipping all over the place.
I love it. Well, let's hope they've got the same energy left in these final few laps, because we're coming down to 5 to go here pretty soon. And Trengrade is no longer on the chase. He's there. Now it's the hunt. Let's see if he can manage to make an overtake here in some of these corners. He's going to make a brave move to see if he can scare him off the line into doing nothing there, unfortunately. And as they switch back into the southern loop, he cuts wide. Maybe a bit of an over-under here from Ove Trengrade to get the launch. Doesn't look like it's there, but Mick Claridge is once again having trouble trying to find the speed off the corner himself.
And they're going to be diving down into this hard braking zone. We'll see if Mick stays really in the middle of the road again, but more in control on the braking. But look at Trengrade really close up on the exit here. This is the closest three cars have been for this battle, but I've got my eye on that orange and blue number 7 machine. He's really been the most aggressive, and he's been proven that he can make passes and work his way back up.
Front of the field has been just chock full of excitement today, so apologies to those in the mid and lower part of the pack here today, because I do know we've had a lot of problems back there. We've lost Mats Linden, Cam Porter, Andre Bruno, Ryan Freeman. It looks like Andrew Eng's now the latest to fall by the wayside, unfortunately. And we've got a replay. Who have we got here? Is this Eng, maybe? Oh! Got tripped up by somebody.
Oh, we got a problem on the racetrack. Trengrade just got around. I'm sorry to interrupt there. We got Trengrade around Mikko. Mikko just drifted off wide right, all 4 tires in the grass off of the final corner, and how he saved it, I have no idea.
Yeah, out of Swan, that's always kind of a worst nightmare scenario. The number 9 already looks a little bit out of sorts here. So was he trying to go defensive? Was he offline on the way into the corner? He might be. No, he's staying on the racing line for now. Just maybe pushing it a little bit too hard. See, drifts off the course. Oh, whoa! Wow! That's heart in your throat stuff.
I think I saw the number 3 car of Mick Claridge off on the driver's right just in front of him. It might have offset his reference just enough that it set him off track as well. And oh my goodness, you mentioned heart in the throat.
Well, Ove Trangrade is now to 5th, and Mick Claridge is there in front of him in P4. Can Mick hold him back for about 4 more laps here as they go by a lot of lap traffic as well? It's about a minute and a half around here for most of the cars, so some of those at the lower end of the field seem to have been caught, and they're trying to dutifully stay out of the way of a lot of our quicker drivers as they come across the line. One of the fastest parts of the track. Trangrade's close, but not close enough.
You'll have to wait a few more corners to try to pick out a spot. One thing that we've made mention of, that Mick Claridge car has definitely over-pushed the limits a couple times on these braking zones, and they're headed to one right now with the 7 machine looking to get a good exit right up on the back of the gearbox of Mick.
And he's going to just watch him here from a few car lengths back. Not going to be able to do anything down into Miller this time. Although a defensive move from Mick Claridge shows that he does not trust things completely for the time being. As they switch back, and now it's up to Siberia. Long uphill climb through here. You know, it's funny, you talk about seeing the cars dance around. I would think as a driver, and I know because they're not, because I've driven these things a lot. They're one of my favorite cars, Joey. It's a simple car. It's just literally no aero and 4 tires on the road. You'd think it'd be the simplest to drive because it's all mechanical grip, and yet it tests even the best out here.
It can test everyone, and one thing that we take for granted is tire technology. These old tires and these old cars, they do not work and grip the same way that we even know street car tires currently. And I think that's the biggest thing that throws people for a loop out here, is how to drive these old radial tires.
That's a good point. Yeah, that changes the grip completely. These guys, though, have been racing these things for years, so they know their way around, but are dealing with some hot temperatures that have kept them slipping and sliding all race long. Mick Claridge now has steeled himself and is going to try and hold off Ove Trangrade for just 3 more laps as they come out of the southern loop. 4 more laps, really, I should say. And up towards Miller once again. Another defensive line here from Mick. I wonder if maybe he's braking a little early so that he doesn't overshoot the corner.
It's something that I've noticed all race long out of Mick there going into that corner. He kind of holds the middle of the road. I'm not sure if he can't get the car back drivers left in time to set up for that corner, but look at this. Trangrade really putting the pressure now. I don't think you can get much closer up the back end of that gearbox. I think he's probably got oil on his visor from it.
Oh, and slipping a little bit wide. Mick Claridge is offline. Trangrade has to check up to keep from running into the back of him. That puts him on the back foot once again as Mick Claridge has to hold these unoptimal lines here coming through many of these corners. And now, talked about the oil on the windscreen. He's going to feel the slipstream as they pick up speed. These things are a rocket ship in a straight line, already up to 160 miles an hour here and still climbing 180 miles an hour before they get to doing. And now into the corner, a little bit of a look from Trangrade. Mick slams the door shut.
Great racing by these two right now. Trangrade pushed the limits on entry, said, hey, Mick, you should go a little bit further. But Mick said, you know what? I'm too smart for that. I'm going to hit my marks. I'm just going to keep clicking off these laps right here because guess what? Only 2.5 laps remain.
Indeed. And as they come around through Stoner and still holding that middle of the line, Mick Claridge manages to keep Ove Trangrade from finding an opening about that 180 miles an hour. Keep in mind, modern Formula One, at a lot of tracks, you'd be looking at that speed at the end of some long straightaways, maybe a little bit higher, but that's with all the wings and downforce and modern technology. This is 1967 technology hitting 180 miles per hour.
Joe, what do you think that would feel like? Not only the power, I've driven plenty of fast cars in my life. Trangrade really getting up on the back of the gearbox of Mick here, but You're sitting in a little bathtub made of plexiglass, if you will, and doing that speed. Pretty crazy.
And surrounded by fuel, remember.
Yes.
This is the time where they thought the best thing to disperse the weight was to wrap it around the driver. So yeah, terrifying is the only word I can think of. And kudos to the real-world drivers that drove these things. This looks like a much better run for Ove Trangrade. He's going to actually get to the inside, maybe, coming down into the corner. Mick can't slam the door shut this time. He has to leave him some space, but Ove is not able to get through. 2 laps to go now.
Impressive racing from Mick. We saw him overstep turn 1 on the outside line earlier this race, but he's clearly learned from his mistakes and keeps it on the racetrack out there and keeps that number 7 of Ove Trangrade behind him.
Down into the braking of Miller once more. This time a little bit farther off to the left-hand side from Mick Claridge, changing his lineup a little bit, and Ove can't manage to find his way past. They come around Siberia. Again, we're watching the battle for 4th place. Tixier is leading this thing. He's going to take the white flag in about 2 corners, so we'll have to go to him in about a minute 30's time to see him take what could be his 3rd win of the season. But this is where the action has been. Trying to decide the first step outside of the podium. Claridge still trying to hold defensive lines into almost every corner.
This is the final spot on the podium, and you're right, we're starting to see some over-under here. Trangrade getting underneath Claridge, coming out onto this fast left-hander swan, out onto the front straight. This might be the move that secures him that 3rd place.
He's got a little bit of a nose ahead, but is on the outside coming down into Dewan. Can he manage to pull around the long way? It's going to take a brave move and a lot of grip. He sends it in as deep as he dares, but he has to give it up.
I was squinting there as the 7 car barely kept it on the track. He was around the outside, and now the places are back as they were the lap prior, and Ove's going to have to try to get around. But Joe, we're running out of time out here.
Yeah, he's only got a couple more realistic chances. Tixier is still dealing with a little lap traffic, but he's got an 8-second lead, so he's got plenty in hand here to try and take care. Also, David Rossi seems to have had an incident and might lose yet more positions. Rolly Wallbank, though, will need a lot of points over him to be able to keep things alive for the championship. So Rossi might still be our F2 champion after this checkered flag, which comes in just a few moments. Tixier going to get his 3rd win of the season, his 3rd ever in his career in the Grand Prix Legends Series, and he weaves in celebration here at Phillip Island as he takes it down to the final round for the championship. Kemp is going to get a well-earned, quiet 2nd place, and Sanchez almost ran him down, got it to within 8 seconds to round out the podium.
Trangrade and Claridge are coming out of the final corner. Looks like Mick is going to hang on to that 4th place position over Trangrade, but you got to think a top 5 for Trangrade is good damage control after the mistake early on.
Rolly Wallbank is going to get 14th place, it looks like. He's trying to chase on Wilson here. Again, this is for the F2 championship. That'll be 37 points. He was about 99 points back, I think it was, coming into this thing. And since it's 60 for a win, I don't think this is going to be enough because Rossi will still score points from his 21st place at the back of the field. So I think that will seal that F2 championship unofficially. That's going to take us to a quick break as we see there that Zoko there just behind Plumley at the line. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Phillip Island Circuit. We just watched round 11 of the Grand Prix Legends Series. On a Thanksgiving weekend here, it is all celebrations and thanks for Sébastien Tixier, who took the win, but not for some of our drivers at the start, who unfortunately didn't even make it to the first corner. And Tixier about 8.5 seconds in the lead at the checkered flag over Neil Kemp, who we typically don't see this far forward, but the number 12 was on a tear today and managed to hold down that second place. Xavier Sanchez was running him down at the end, but ran out of time and wound up third, but still on the podium. Mick Claridge, who we expect to be fighting for the win, well, had to really fight just for fourth and barely held off a recovering Ove Trangrade, who wound up fifth. Mikko Mekola was P6 and Jorge Nieva P7. After that, Miro Haraski was P8, followed by John Olsen, another driver that fell backwards after some incidents, only got 9th, and Laust Olsen rounds out your top 10.
They're in 11th place. We have Robert Plumley, followed by Benjamin Zoko. We saw them have a little bit of an incident later in the race, unfortunately, but they're in 13th. Looks like we have Paul Wilson, followed by Rolly Wallbank out there. Manuel Piera rounds out the top 15. Gary Quillen, 16th. Terry Tromhauser, Isan Jin, Alon Graham, and David Rossi in 20th position.
And Tira Tilis, wound up 21st and did actually see the checkered flag, but Robert Anderson did not in 22nd. Glenn Becker did in 23rd. It's all back and forth here as from there we finally get to all DNFs from there on down to 30th. This one ate up a lot more cars than I would have anticipated, but it didn't trip up Sébastien Tixier. Sébastien, your third win of the season. You tried for so many seasons to try and get them, and now they're coming like a flood. You've taken the most of anybody this season.
Yeah, it's nice. It was for this race. I think everything was on the qualification. This morning we had a race, and Neil Kemp was qualifying in front of me, and even I was, I think, faster. I could never pass him. So I was super nervous for the qualification to qualify in front of him, and barely did it. Then I got a good start, and after that I managed to increase the gap so I could relax. But yeah, very nervous during the qualification.
Well, it seemed to really make a huge difference out there with you being able to really focus on your own race and pull out that pretty large gap. The one thing that surprised us, though, Neil Kemp, was he as good in those previous races? Because I was not expecting that to be the name to hold down second so solidly.
Yeah, this morning we did a race. I think he won one yesterday. So for you it was 2 days ago. For me it was yesterday. And he's very fast on this track. And he's very, very hard to pass. He doesn't let a lot of space. So yeah, so I was happy to qualify in front of him.
Well, you gained 12 points on Ove Trangrade, and I believe that'll bring it down to a little over 20 points, or right around 20 points between you two coming into Bathurst. Considering Bathurst is a track that can easily end someone's race prematurely, I mean, what are your thoughts coming into that one? Do you dare think about maybe beating him to the championship?
No. It's just like I said before, I just want to win more race. I think next week there will be some aliens coming from North Europe. Topi, Timu, I think they're going to come to Bathurst, so it's going to be very hard. It's a track I really like, but usually I don't think I'm super fast, especially in the Lotus. I prefer like fast track like Phillip Island, very fast curves. Really like it. So yeah, so I will try to do my best at Bathurst, and if something happened to Ove, I don't wish it. I will hope we'll have a good battle, me and him. And if I don't win the championships, it's okay because, like I said to Mick, I don't care about the championships.
I know. And we've even repeated that during the broadcast. Congratulations, Sebastian, and best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Sebastian Tixier is chasing from second in the championship, but the lead of the race today with a victory. Up next, down in fourth, we have Mick Claridge with Joey Atterbury.
Mick, happy to be having you joining us finally here in the commentary booth. You had an interesting day with a slip and slide machine out there. You were initially pressuring for second place. Did you have really good speed early on and then it just fell off, or where did it go?
No, I didn't have any pace at all, not even in qualifying. This really is my bogey track. I tell you, Joey, it's always been a nightmare for me. Even when it got released and I was driving the V8 supercar, I was useless around here. It's just, I have trouble with the tyre heat here. I always overheat the tyres here. I'm always overdriving, and that's what happens in this race. I always melt the right front, and then it's a nightmare from then on. I find myself putting about 20 degrees more steering input to try and get around the corners, then trying to solve that by flooring it, and that's when the back end goes. So no, terrible race, really.
Well, you looked amazing out there on the screen, and you mentioned overcooking some of those front tires. We saw you go off in turn one, maybe about halfway through the race. Was that a case of it, or did you just get in too deep there?
Oh no, my brake marker there is a little white line that goes across the track. Completely missed it. No idea where it was. So yeah, I just saw the delta time just disappearing, like way green, and I just thought, okay, I won't even bother trying to get to the apex of this one. This is not good. But yeah, good fun though. Good fun to be back in the car,
Yeah, it was a pleasure watching you out there. And then one final question for you. I know you've got a lot of experience racing Ove Trengrade out there. Just take us through those final couple of laps when he was just applying so much pressure and was all up in those mirrors.
Well, the thing with Uwe is, and I've probably said it in commentary over the season, is he's so good on the brakes. So he doesn't brake as hard as most guys. So he just completely saves the front tyres on his car, no matter where he drives, what car he drives. So there's always that's going to happen, So, I mean, he's always going to disappear under my mirror, in the braking zones. And I know he's right on my gearbox, but you just have to sort of try and ignore him, because he's just an animal, and that's always been his strong point on the brakes, So just trying to park it on the apex and just stop him. I could see him losing the back end really badly out the last corner on the last lap. So that was making me laugh, but I was like trying to concentrate myself coming out there, But and he's like I always say, he doesn't practice either, so he's going to get quicker and quicker and quicker as the race goes on, and that's what always happens. But yeah, I've raced him for years and years and years now. It feels like I'm racing a brother, So yeah, it's always great fun racing Uwe.
Well, you put on a show for us no matter who you were battling out there, Mick, whether it's for second, third, or ultimately that fourth place position. One heck of a show. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, you, Joey, for stepping in, mate. Thanks for stepping in. I did have mic problems during that race. I'm glad I didn't do any commentary because the sim crashed, kicked me out right at the end when I just pressed escape. That was it. So thanks to you, mate, for helping out there.
Absolutely. I love it up here in the commentary booth. And Mick, it's always a pleasure to watch you on the racetrack. It was fun watching that slip and slide number 3 machine out there at Phillip Island today. And I think that is just going to do it here for our interviews, unless we have one more, Joe.
We do have Ben Zocco ready to talk to us. We might as well talk to the hometown hero. Well, I don't know about hometown hero, but home soil here for Ben Zocco, but only at 12th place. And you were in quite a battle with John Olsen early in that race.
Yeah, it's I guess it's a home track, I suppose. It's always good to be racing down under on the classic Aussie tracks. This car suits this track pretty well, although I never seem to do all that well here. Had a great battle with John. We're very close in pace always, so it's always really fun to have a battle there. But unfortunately, a bit of net code kept a lid on that one. There was room down the inside there, but looking at the replay, a bit of just bit of netcode. So unfortunate end to a good battle. Normally I'd be happy to just follow John around, putting the pressure on him for the whole race, but I thought, no, I'll definitely have a go this time and see if I can overtake him and put on a show. But as I said, netcode kind of ruined that one, unfortunately.
We often talk about how this is an official iRacing series, and yet it has very much a league feel. We heard you guys, if I'm not mistaken, kind of laughing it off as soon as it happened. Did you guys know it was netcode, or what kept you guys in such good spirits after such an intense battle to be able to just shrug that off so quickly?
We're just good mates. We race a lot, so we never really have any drama, but we are aware of the netcode issues that occur when you've got people racing from the opposite sides of the globe. And we were racing that close for so long. I think that's why John was sort of laughing it off as like, that was bound to happen. It was inevitable. And I just joked and said that it was payback from Japan, from back at Suzuka. And yeah, look, it's all good. That's how many years that even John's been racing in this car in this series. When he started off, he was slower than me, and then he quickly, especially with these new tyres, became the same speed as me. So we're racing close together, good rivalry, and we know that there's going to be another race next week, and then another season, and another championship, and another battle to come. So it's just water under the bridge doesn't matter at all.
And I love to see that here on iRacing, when drivers are able to take all that stuff in good stride and enjoy themselves. You mentioned next week, though, another Australian track. Do you fare any better over at Bathurst usually?
Yeah, I'm becoming a bit of a Bathurst specialist, I hope. I'm going to put that positive energy out there anyway. Fake it till you make it, right? So next week should be a little bit better than maybe. I can maybe be a bit more competitive and maybe have one up on some of the people that struggle there. That's definitely much more of a home track for me, because Bathurst is about 2 hours away. Went out there recently in real life, so looking forward to that one.
I'm extremely jealous. I'd love to get to see it in person. Congratulations on a great race out there today, even if it didn't wind up how you may have wanted, and we hope we'll get to talk to you in better conditions at Bathurst.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, Joe.
That was Ben Zocco, finished 12th. And that's going to wrap us up for sure. So a big thank you to the community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here for the Grand Prix Legends series. And also thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race is going to be at the Mountain from Mount Panorama. That'll be Saturday, December 3rd. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern for the season finale. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts, though, including the Camel GT series going to VIR in a couple hours. That'll be at noon Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.